Louisa, the donkey's got those again.
Let's unpack the magic.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Team Unicorn Podcast. My name is Tyler.
And I'm Sammy.
And today we are bringing you our second official episode of the Dig a Little Deeper series.
Yes, with one of our favorite movies.
Absolute favorite movies. We're going to be talking about Encanto today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really feel like we need to get a whole lot into the specifics of what Encanto is. I'm sure most people, if they're listening to the podcast, have already seen the movie countless times.
Yes.
But it is absolutely one of our favorite movies. It's one of those movies that we just we always go back to. We'll always watch it. It's always good. I don't think that there's anything wrong with there's not like a flaw with this movie.
Right. And the soundtrack is just amazing. So we listen to that
all the
time. So yeah, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah, and so we'll start today's episode talking a little bit about just the movie itself, what we like about it, and then we're gonna kind of dive into some of the fan theories, or kind of maybe speculate on some of our own theories about the movie Encanto and what it all kind of holds for us here.
Yes, because there are so many, there's so many hidden Easter eggs, just things to find throughout the movie, and then once the movie just blew up on TikTok, I feel like there was just theory after theory,
right? Yes,
to kind of unpack. With
right.
This
so
movie.
Let's start with that, because you mentioned TikTok. I feel like we were one of the cool kids that saw the movie before it got popular.
Right, we saw it opening weekend,
in theaters.
Theaters. So I think that was around Thanksgiving last year.
Correct.
It came out, so it was still during the pandemic, and I think a lot of people were still probably not wanting to go out as much.
There was probably some hesitancy still to go to the theaters at that point. And I'm glad that Disney decided to release it into theaters initially. Just because, like I said, we got that first little, I feel like we got that special treatment. We got to see it before a lot of other people did.
Yeah.
Or a lot of other people wanted to see it because, I remember sitting there in the theater, and it was kind of a moment. I know we've talked about this in the past when we watched The Greatest Showman for the first time. It finally got to the point where Come Alive came on, and at that point, my jaw dropped, and I'm like, this is a movie I'm gonna love for the rest of the time. I love this film, and I got that pretty quickly on with Encanto as well.
Yeah, I think from the opening number, it just kind of, I don't know, grabs you in.
Right. And so I remember watching it in the theaters, and especially that moment that really got me was Waiting on a Miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And the same kind of thing happened within Greatest Showman. I feel my jaw literally dropped, and I'm just this is it. This is a movie for me. I love this movie. I'm going to make this everything about my personality for the next several months.
Yeah. Well, and Lin-Manuel Miranda was behind the music for Encanto, and we pretty much love everything that he does.
Anything he does.
This movie had pretty high expectations for us, and I don't think it disappointed at all.
No.
It just really hit with everything. The movie is just amazing.
Yeah, so we were listening to the music, and we had fallen in love with the movie for a good month, and then all of a sudden Disney announced that, hey, we're going to release it on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Kind of as an end of the year Christmas kind of gift for everyone. And then it just took the world by storm.
It did. It really blew up. You couldn't go on TikTok without getting several videos related
in a row. My For You page was just inundated with Encanto content, which I wasn't complaining about. I wasn't mad about. I'm still not mad about when I see Encanto content come up here. I absolutely love it and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, because we had only seen it the one time in theaters, and then we hadn't seen it again until it came to Disney Plus. So it was just amazing to see all of these Easter eggs, things that we didn't catch the first time, and then all of these theories that were coming out. I'm just oh, I never thought about that. And and I love that. I love hearing something and then just watching it again and be oh yeah, I like that, or I'm not really too sure about that theory. But yeah, it was just everywhere on TikTok.
Yeah, and I loved the Easter eggs there because obviously us only seeing it for the first time, like so we were really like we really loved the music of it, and then so that's what kept
Yeah.
us until we got the movie on Disney Plus. But then like people like finding out, like especially like the one that kind of stands out to me right away is in We Don't Talk About Bruno, when Dolores and Mirabel are singing together,
Hmm.
and then like up way in the background there's just a little shadow of Bruno like jamming out to his own like
Yeah.
song that they're like making fun of him or like just bashing him, and he's just up there like yep, this is a good
Hmm.
bop. And I'm just like I
Yes.
never would have thought about that or known that had I not seen that before.
Yeah, or like a lot of like what the characters are wearing, like the families, like the different families all have like their different colors, and Mirabelle has like something on her dress for everybody, like
Hmm.
those getting pointed out for the first time, which I'm assuming after a couple more times of watching it, like we would have like put that all together, but just like people like saying, "Oh, I noticed this right away." And it's like I didn't
Yeah.
really notice all of that. Like
So it was a good like 2-3 month like deep dive into like
yeah.
the lore of Encanto and like the music
Mhm.
behind it and all these theories and Easter eggs, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what kind of stems this episode today, is just really kind of talking more about like all the theories that we've heard, some of the theories that we have, and what we think of some of maybe the bad theories that we think that
Yeah.
are out there. But just stepping back and talking about the movie in general, do you have like any like favorites characters or favorite moments of the movie?
I really like Louisa.
Hmm.
I think I really relate to her. Well, and her song is probably like one of my favorites, like Surface Pressure. Yeah, I think just identifying as the older sibling, growing up, and I just really felt a lot of that, and even to this day, like I think she still is very relatable. I think just having that, I don't know, that millennial like personality, like, I think there was so much pressure on us to like do well, if you do good, you're gonna like succeed in life, and which maybe isn't always the case, but yeah, I think she's just a really relatable character,
Hmm.
and I really love her song. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I feel like every song is such a good song, but
It
like, because I'm
is.
like, oh yeah, that's such a good song. I just, it's one of the best songs on the soundtrack. And then we'll listen to the next song, and I'm just like, okay, there's not like a bad song on this soundtrack at all.
No, there isn't. I think another one of my favorites, and I know we've talked about it before, but Dos Orguitas.
Hmm.
And I know it's probably not like everyone's favorite, just because it is like a slower song and it's in Spanish. But it's so beautiful. Like I like of all of the music and stuff that Lynn has worked on, like that is probably like up there as like one of my most favorite
Hmm.
things that he's created.
And I remember when the Oscars were announced earlier this year, and Disney had um, nominated or put up for nomination Dos Oruguitas instead of We Don't Talk About Bruno. And by that
Mhm.
point, like We Don't Talk About Bruno was just like it was everywhere.
Oh yeah, and
Like it
it
was
surpassed Let It Go.
yeah, it was like on like mainstream radio. Like I remember
Yeah.
like tuning into like our local like pop everyday hits, today's hit station, and hearing it several
Yep.
times. Like that's how big this song was.
Yeah.
And they didn't nominate that song for
Yeah.
the Oscar contention. But then like the more we watched the movie and the more like I listened to it, and then finally like getting the translated version and reading the lyrics in English,
Mhm.
like I would have almost preferred that song to have been nominated over We Don't
Yeah.
Talk About
Yep.
Bruno, just because it's such a beautiful, significant song to the overall theme and the message in the
Yes.
movie.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love that one. I guess one of my favorite characters is Isabella. And I think that kind of stems from the fact that like if this was her movie, she would have already been a Disney princess by now.
Yeah.
Like she fits like literally all the categories or all the qualifications for it. Like she looks like a Disney princess. So um I think that it also stems from the fact that I really like the song What Else Can I Do? That's
Mhm.
probably one of like my top songs on the soundtrack. Um and I don't know, I just think it's really fun, and like it's she's coming to terms with like she doesn't have to be this perfect person, or she doesn't have to deal with the pressures and the weights that everyone is putting on her. She can just do whatever she wants to do, and she's finally realizing
Yeah.
she can do whatever she wants to do. And Um, I think that kind of follows along with like Luisa's song, where she's kind of like, coming to terms with all the pressure she's dealing with and all the
Yeah.
anxiety. And like this movie in general is just so like, it deals with so much like familial trauma.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. And I think that's why it's probably
It's
bad.
so
It's so
relatable.
relatable. But it's very true though. Like it is, taking the family dynamics, and it's not all bad. Because we were talking earlier about Mirabelle's parents and
Oh, they're
how
like the best
amazing they
parents.
are. Like they are like the best example of like what parents should be, like
Hmm.
standing up for your kids. Especially to somebody like that it's probably not very easy to stand up to, like standing up, to like your own, mother or whatever. Like it's, but it was just amazing to see like that done in such like a positive way.
Right. And like across the board, like, I mean, we'll get into Abuela in a little bit because she
Yeah.
frustrates me so much. But like, even on the opposite end with the other siblings, so you have like Julieta, who's obviously like an amazing mom to Mirabelle.
Hmm.
But then like even Felix and Peppa are great parents to Antonio and Dolores. And I just really like how like they are in love with each other, and like they just it's a very strong bond and knitted family once you get underneath the level of Abuela.
Yeah.
um, and I really like that, and I just feel like not a lot of Disney movies, I guess growing up had like these families that had both loving, supportive mom and dad being
Hmm.
there for everything. It's either mom was killed off or dad was killed off, or like the kid's an orphan, or
Right.
whatever the case is.
Yeah. The
Um,
classic Disney movie with no parents.
so it's nice, especially like these last couple films that have come out with like, I guess like Coco was good, where they had like a big family dynamic, or even um, some other movies that have come out recently that have shown like that full like Onward had like a
Yeah.
really supportive mom and like a stepdad who was trying to come in and like make the best, and like they
Hmm.
were dealing with family dynamics. So like I feel like that's been like the key trend like as of late, really
Hmm.
like digging into like the familial pressures and familial dynamics. But like this movie just really set it off with having just issues coming from the top.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to get into
Yeah,
Abuela right now?
let's talk about her. We just recently watched the movie just to kind of reacclimate ourselves, because it's been a little bit since we've seen it. And by a little bit,
By
I
a
mean
little bit,
like
it's
a
like
couple weeks.
a few weeks.
And boy, do I just don't like Abuela. She just frustrates me so much. I don't
Yeah.
think that like she serves the purpose of what the movie is supposed to be about, but like at the end when Mirabelle like kind of forgives her and she's like, I understand where you're coming from. And I'm like, no, be freaking petty. Like she was so mean to you. She was so mean to Bruno. She doesn't care about the family. She just cares about Casita. Like, she's a Disney villain in my mind. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe she is.
Well, okay, so another thing that's interesting with that is a lot of times Disney villains are like green is their aesthetic. Abuela's not green. And
Hmm.
I don't know if they did that on purpose to try to trick us
Oh,
to
I'm sure they did.
because Bruno is obviously that's his color and he's not the villain.
And he's set up to
um
be the villain, primarily for like not that this
yes,
movie that necessarily has a villain, but he's set up to be like
the bad
the bad
person, I
person.
guess. Yeah. But it's that Abuela and she's not green. Like she has that plum color dress or whatever.
Yeah,
So I thought that was interesting.
yeah. I just
But
I find it difficult every time I watch it to the sympathize with Abuela. I
yeah.
understand that she went through like a very traumatic event, um, but and she admits this in the movie at the end, that she was so concerned with holding on to this miracle and holding on to the gift that she had got, that she didn't pay attention to what her actions were doing to the individual person. Like
Yeah.
I firmly believe that it wasn't Bruno's vision of Mirabelle in front of that house that drove Bruno away from the family. He didn't be like, oh, I had this bad vision, like I can't be here anymore. It was him having to deal with Abuela not liking that.
Well, yeah, because he was under so much pressure because he has these visions of things that are going to come true, and they're not always good things, like, in the song, like, we don't talk about Bruno, like, the fish dies, the guy gets a gut, the guy loses his hair, like,
Those
that
are
was all stuff that was going to happen anyway. It's just that's what he saw, and then people just think like, no, Bruno made that happen. Like, no, it was just something that was already going to happen.
Yeah, and I just think that Abuela took it the other way. Like, it was, these things were going to happen because of Bruno, not Bruno could see these because it was going to happen.
Right.
And I firmly believe that she just annexed him from the family. She just like, I don't want anything to do with
Yeah.
Bruno. He is just a menace. He is causing all these bad things to happen. And then Bruno was like, well, if I love my family, but if Abuela doesn't love me, like, I need to leave. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think that he left on his own terms. And he kind of makes that evidence when
Well,
he
yeah,
stays.
because he even makes the comment like, my gift wasn't helping the family. So,
Mhm.
and that's what Abuela is all about. Like, we have to earn the miracle that was given to us. Like, she even says that in the beginning. So you can't just have these gifts and not do something with them. Like, you have to help, you have to prove your worth. Like, you can't just like be all like doing whatever with them. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so because Bruno was having these like bad visions, quote unquote, like, and they weren't helping anybody, like, he felt like he wasn't good enough to like be in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which, getting to like your point right there, where you said that, Abuela said like you kind of have to earn
yeah.
these gifts. Like, how does a kid earn these gifts when they're going into these gift ceremonies at 5 or 6 years old? Like, I don't understand how she could be so hard strung, be like, you need to earn these gifts. You need to prove
Yeah.
that you deserve these gifts. But you're 6 years old. Nothing against Antonio. I love his character. He is like, there's multiple times where like he'll say something and it kind of like chokes me up because he's just so cute with his release on it. But I'm just like, how did he at 5 or 6 years old earn the gift of talking to
Yeah.
animals?
Well, I don't know, like, I just think like at when you're that young, like, in the beginning, like when Abuela's talking to Mirabel, like, you have to make your family proud. So I think just always trying to do good and help people, which I guess is a good message, but then like there's no room for like taking care of yourself or
Hmm.
like doing something for yourself. Like, it's always for the good of the family or the community, or it's never like you can't, you know.
Which I guess is all fine if you're like, you're doing it for the family, you're doing it for the community. But then Abuela can't, she needs to like be checked into place and be like, that's not the sole purpose. Like, you can't just do
Mhm.
everything for community. You need to do something for yourself. Like, this gift needs to
Right.
benefit you as well.
Yeah. And I think that's where the problem was coming. And so I think that kind of goes into some other like theories or things that I think kind of happen throughout the movie to kind of put her in check and like realize what she's doing, or like the headspace that she's in and what she's thinking isn't like correct, and it's not very healthy, it's not like helping the family.
Hmm.
And I know one of those is that the casita has the spirit of Pedro.
Yes,
um
which we both agree with,
yeah,
that's a good theory. Like, we agree with that
I
theory.
do like that because just the way that Mirabel is able to interact with the house, which I think like pretty much anybody can, but you really see it a lot with Mirabel,
Hmm.
like interacting with the house. But I think like Casita could see like the way Abuela was treating everybody, and like how she was expecting everyone to use their gifts, and it wasn't healthy. So I think that made
That made Casita try to send a warning.
yeah, or like a message to Abuela by not giving Mirabel a gift.
Yeah.
because when the miracle is in trouble and Abuela is asking Pedro, for help, like, I think that was his way of helping her, was by, not giving Mirabelle a gift so that way she could see that, her family, like, these amazing people, like, they're more than their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And she could finally see and realize that at the end, because she says to Mirabelle, I asked my Pedro for help and he sent me you. Like, he sent me, this amazing person that wasn't given this gift, but she could still somehow, like, help our family and love our family enough to, give them what they needed.
Right. And I think eventually what will happen with Mirabelle is that she'll probably take over that role that Abuela has right now, where Abuela doesn't have any gifts. She's not magical by any means. But she is kind of the keeper of the candle. She's the keeper of the house. She kind of oversees to make sure that the miracle is still there and growing and strong. Mirabelle will be that, just a million times better, in my opinion.
Right. Well, yeah, because, like, she, she's grown up with these people that have, like, these amazing powers, and, and her parents, make sure to tell her, like, you're just as special as anybody else in this family. Like, you don't have to have, like, these amazing superpowers. But, like, I think her, her power is, like, she just loves her family so much. And, like, I think she just wants everybody to, like, she just roots for everybody and, like, wants everybody to do, like, the best that they can. And I think that that's, like, kind of her gift in a way.
And that's something, like, I never really thought about that before till you just brought it up now, that Abuela, like, she was, gifted this magic, obviously when she was, not older, but, like, she was, in her 20s or whatever, presumably. So, like, she didn't grow up around this magic. Mirabelle did. Mirabelle grew up with everybody in her life having a gift or a power. Other than her, the only other person in the family that didn't have it was Abuela, who was obviously overseeing everything. And then up to the last couple of years, Antonio. Everybody else had some sort of gift or had something to offer to that. So, like, that's a good point where, she's only grown up and she's only been around people with magic and people with powers. Like, Abuela hasn't been.
Yeah.
So I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I guess keeping on the topic of villains, let's kind of take a look at somebody else who we've read theories or we've seen theories is also a sort of villain in this movie.
Yes.
It's Dolores.
Is Dolores a villain?
And I feel like that is a very loaded question.
Yes. Because as we know, her gift is she can hear everything. Like,
which has to be excruciating.
Yeah, and very annoying, like, I would think.
Yeah, I'd hate that gift.
Yeah, that is not what I would want. So we find out that she knew Bruno didn't leave the house. Like, she knew he's been living in the walls with the rats.
Yep, when they are building the house at the end of the scene, or building Casita back up at the end of the scene, she's like, hey, I knew he never left. I could hear him every day. And at that point, we're just like, really?
Why didn't you say anything?
A dang thing?
Like, I don't know if that makes her a villain.
But she's definitely a pot stirrer.
Yeah, you said it earlier, and I'm like, pot stirrer is probably a good term for her, because, like, in the beginning of the movie, when Mirabelle's singing about her amazing family and all of their gifts, and the three little kids are bothering her about, like, what her gift is, and she's obviously trying to avoid that question, and right at the end, when the kid's like, oh, she was just about to tell us about her super awesome gift, and then Dolores is like, oh, Mirabelle didn't get a gift. Like, like, she knew, she heard, like, Mirabelle singing this song and, like, avoiding this question, and she's just like, oh yeah, she didn't get one.
Not even that. Even if she hadn't heard that in any of the song, which obviously she must have.
Yeah.
Like, she's known for 15 years. She's known Mirabelle for 15 years at this point, and she's known for 10 years that Mirabelle didn't get a gift.
Yeah.
So just to casually be like, yeah, she didn't get a gift.
Yeah.
And just, like, walk away from that, like, as if it's not a big deal.
Right.
I'm just like, that's a low blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the guy in the same song, they're going through and Mirabelle's like, adios. And then the kids are like, well, what's your gift? And then a random guy from the street throws her an accordion.
Yeah.
And then's like, yeah, come on, let's keep singing. He knew.
Right.
Like the townspeople know the gifts of the madrigals because obviously like they're beholden to the to what they have to offer.
Yeah.
So like, he knows Mirabelle doesn't have a gift.
Right.
We know that's the case because a different guy comes over and he's like, I give you the not special because you're not special.
Yeah.
So like everybody knows that she didn't get a gift. Everyone was at her ceremony when she didn't get a gift.
Yep.
So then the guy with the accordion is just like, yeah, Mirabelle, come on, let's keep singing about this. I'm just like, oh, you guys just bunch of D moves to Mirabelle.
Yeah, not very nice.
But getting back to Dolores, though.
Yeah.
I don't think that she's a villain per se. I think if anyone in the movie would be considered a villain, I would say it's Abuela. But even then, like I don't consider her, I guess, like
she's
that typical...
not like the classic Disney villain, but she definitely is like the bad person, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, she's the character that
she's the toxic family member.
Yes.
So
which I mean, I'm thinking of like Mother Gothel from from Tangled. Like she's like that same type of like very toxic mother relationship in this family. We'll get to her a different episode. But I don't think again Dolores is necessarily a villain, but like she's kind of in it for herself for a little bit. And I feel like she saw the way that obviously she treated Bruno left. And then she sees the way that like Abuela treats Mirabelle. So I think maybe just Dolores just kind of just shuts up and doesn't say anything, doesn't want to say anything to Abuela about Bruno.
She'll say stuff to other people, but not to Abuela, because when another thing she does is once Mirabelle pieces the vision back together and she's talking to her dad and her dad's like, we won't say anything, we'll just make it through dinner or whatever. And then they open the door and there's Dolores, like, because she like, I know. And then, of course, like, the next thing she does is tell somebody. So it's like, yeah, she's like a little pot stir, and like she'll kind of talk to people except for Abuela. She won't, or like talk to people about like Bruno being in the walls.
I feel like she knows that if she were to have talked to, if she would have brought it up to her mom, Peppa, and brought it to Abuela, like they would have been in an argument. Abuela would have been like, Bruno doesn't know what he's talking about. He left this family. He doesn't love the family. And so, Dolores is kind of like, well, I don't want to disturb the peace. I just want to, know what I know. I feel like she knows a lot. She obviously knows a lot more, and kind of, she's not the greatest at keeping some secrets safe, but it's very hard for me to root for Dolores, especially at the end where Mirabelle kind of introduces her to Mariano. And then she's just like, oh, I love you. Because that was kind of like her vision from Bruno was, the man of your dreams, the man that you love is going to be betrothed to somebody else.
Yep. So Mariano, was betrothed to Isabella. So, but then she ends up getting him in the end.
So, and then I'm like, that makes like that little seed that they planted earlier on in the movie when she says that kind of comes back. So I'm like, I love that type of storytelling where that kind of ties up a loose end that you didn't ever think that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of like, yeah, but she knew Bruno was there every single day. She would have heard Bruno with the rats. She would have heard Bruno eating at his table that he painted next to the kitchen. That
breaks my heart every time. Like when Mirabelle is just realizing like what she's looking at. Like he literally sits there like behind the wall in like this little crack where he can see everybody.
Like he left, but he didn't leave. And I'm just kind of like, Dolores knew that the entire time. And she just flat out tells, she's like, yeah, I knew. It's like she's talking to Camilo at the last song of the, she's like, yeah, I knew he was here. I could hear him in the walls every day. And like, say something.
I know.
Like, just say something. You're just so, it's infuriating because like she could have like saved probably a lot of this like trauma that the family went through had she just spoke up and said, yeah, he's still here. Like we can still talk this over and we can still make this work and fix this family so that it wouldn't have to come down to Mirabelle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I wouldn't label her as a villain, but I would definitely say like she probably like she knew a very like big thing and she probably should have said something.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yep.
Well, I guess maybe diverting to a not um like deep or rude um theory. Let's go to something a little bit more cheery, I guess, is what I want to go to. We do see Isabella's room in here, which I think I love her room. And we see Antonio's room. One of the characters we don't actually see is Luis's room.
Yeah.
And we've both heard a couple different theories about what does Luis's room look like, but I'm wondering what you think Luis's room looks like.
Yeah, we had kind of talked about this a little bit, and I guess I don't really have like I don't know, like too big of an idea. I just know like she's like super strong and like so I just kind of envision like this like kind of like workout space for her. Yeah, so I don't really
which would make sense because like Antonio's room is just full of animals.
Right.
That's his thing. Or Isabella's room is full of flowers and topiaries. So like that would make sense. So it would make sense that Luis's room would have like a bunch of weights and like things to make her stronger. But like I always kind of envision there being just like this small hidden room, like way in the back, or like just it's not even like its own room, but like just a small little like hidden door that she can go into. Like no one looks at it. It's like behind like a thing of dumbbells or something, so no one can get to it. And like she can open it up and it's just all full of soft pillows and blankets and relaxing, but she never has the opportunity to go into it because the moment she wants to go into it, someone is calling her to pick up the donkeys or something. Right. So like it's there, but she can't. I feel like she can't ever access it. As easy as it would be for her to access it, she wouldn't be able to because like she's always getting pulled in a different direction.
Yeah. And but that's what she really needs. And so I think like her room would probably reflect that is something that she needs but doesn't really get to utilize as often as she should.
Right.
Yeah, cuz she really like I think out of anybody like in the family, like she probably does like the most like work. I mean, obviously because of her gift. But then I think that also just like weighs on her the most because I think that's why, she was probably like the first one to kind of feel the magic like losing her power.
Yeah, she could feel that something was wrong.
Because she could feel weak. So I think because she does like the most work and stuff, so I think that's why she was the first one.
That makes sense.
To kind of feel that, I guess, with the miracle dying.
Yeah.
So I think another big theory, and I think one of like the main ones that we talk about quite a bit is Mirabelle. I don't know if sabotaging is the right word, but when she goes to touch the candle in her ceremony, and then she wipes it on her dress.
Yep. I'm 100% on board with she sabotaged. I know we disagree on this one too. A little bit.
I just don't think I don't think sabotage is the right word. I think because she took the miracle from the candle instead of like putting it to her door, she put it to herself. So I guess.
Okay, yep, I'll agree with that one. Yep. So she's little 5-year-old, 6-year-old Mirabelle. Abuela gets her to the door. She holds onto the candle, and instead of grabbing the door like we see Antonio do and we see everyone else do, she wipes it on herself. And
then goes to grab
it, and then the door disappears because she doesn't have that. I think at that point she has sabotaged her inadvertently, by the way.
I guess like not, sabotage sounds like a bad, like she ruined it.
She didn't want the gift.
Yeah.
Like she inadvertently sabotaged herself by wiping her hands on herself, which had the miracle, and that's why she didn't get a door. And your point is that the next thing she touches is herself. So she must now be the miracle.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
I do too. It ties in to, I think, so many like like the theories and themes, like like with Casita being the spirit of Pedro, and wanting to you know kind of send a message to Abuela, like by not giving Mirabel a gift per se. Like she didn't get a door with like a
Mm-hmm.
typical like Madrigal gift, because she is the gift.
Cue Mickey in the background saying, "You are the magic."
Are the magic. Oh my
Oh,
god.
perfect. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
I do agree with that, and I do really like that idea. Because we've talked about earlier in this episode, and we've talked about in the past where Pedro's magic,
Mm-hmm.
or the spirit of Pedro is what brings the magic to life. He is that yellow glowing
Yep.
dust. He is that yellow butterfly. Everything that's gold and yellow in this film.
Yeah, because
is
there's
Pedro.
even 3 butterflies on his portrait that's hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and something I noticed when we just watched it earlier today, when Mirabel at the end, where she has the doorknob and she places it into Casita, and the whole thing, obviously the whole thing like glows in gold. That wasn't something I noticed, but on the archway of the door that Mirabel is now in front of, so now she has her own door. But on the archway, there's butterflies all around it, and that's not something I guess I really noticed beforehand, because I'm more focused on like, oh, Mirabel's finally on the door, like, and the whole family, and like it's all glowing and everything. But yeah, I finally noticed those butterflies on the archway there. But like, so Pedro, he's just bestowing, that gift or that magic, and so if the door is the portal to that person's new gifts,
yeah,
that would make sense that the door would glow, or like, that's the first thing that's, becomes magical after touching that candle, because when you touch that candle, you're touching the magic, you're touching that spirit of Pedro. But I mean, Mirabel touches herself.
Yeah,
I like that.
I do too. I remember hearing that. That was probably one of the first things that like one of the first series that like I had heard, and I'm like, I love that. Like immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, like nothing has made more sense than this theory right here. And it just goes into I think too, because when they're all at dinner with Mariano and his mom, and she says, well, everyone here has a talent, so my Mariano would like to sing, or whatever she says.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone at the table, she says, like including Mirabel, like has like, some kind of like gift or whatever, is how I took it. So I'm like, well, they're still alluding to the fact that Mirabel has like some kind of gift.
And I guess another little sneaky Easter egg in there, Bruno's also at that table, because we know behind the family portrait there is his table.
Yeah.
And I've shown you a TikTok. We actually put it up on the big screen TV and pause it. If you look at that scene with everything going around, there's that little space in the wood where Bruno can see out of. You can definitely see 2 sets of eyes looking through that portrait with everything going on. So he was there watching the proposal. He was there seeing everything happening.
Yeah.
So like he was there with the family too. So everybody at that table had a gift, including Bruno, even though he wasn't at that physical table. He was just on the opposite side of the wall at his own little table watching everything. And as soon as I saw that Easter egg, I was like, there's no way. I thought there was someone just kind of like CG'd or kind of made their own thing on TikTok, and they're like, oh yeah, this is true. No, like you can legit see 2 little sets of eyes in that crack in the wood during that scene. Like Bruno was there too, and I'm like, they just think of like the coolest things to put in these movies.
Yeah. Well, and like I guess like another thing too that comes to mind with like Mirabel, like being like she has a gift, like when like the house is crumbling and everyone's trying to get to the candle, like Mirabel's the only one that can get there, because she doesn't have to rely on like a special like gift that was like given.
She doesn't need a special ability to be able to see that.
Because you can see like everyone's like gift is dying with the house. So then she's the only one that can get up there, and like Casita like helps her climb up there, and she's the one that's able to save the candle. And and I think that just kind of proves more like she is like, you know, I don't know, like, yeah, like the miracle is like in her. Like, so I think that's another thing that just kind of proves that too.
Right. And it kind of that in that same vein, like it proves that Casita is Pedro, especially in that that kind of final sequence when the Casita is finally like cracking. They've just had this huge argument, and like
Yeah.
the house is like breaking down. Like Casita is still there to help Mirabel get up to there. And you've mentioned several times that um, Casita kind of almost treats Mirabel or like young children in the house the way that a grandparent would.
Yeah.
Especially like kind of diverting off of that for a second. At Antonio's gift ceremony, when they're making the house really nice for the big party, there's two little kids that are walking up the stairs, and then the stairs turn into a slide, and they're kind of like playing around with them.
Yeah.
Like it's very much as way like a very playful. The house is interacting with these children very playfully, like a grandparent would.
Yep. Yeah.
So in the end, when Casita is trying to help Mirabel any way it possibly can, even though it is breaking down and it is about to, fall apart, like it's still there, and Casita is still trying to help Mirabel any way possible to get that candle.
Yeah.
Once the house finally crumbles, that candle goes out. So I'm like, at one point, I'm just like, if we're gonna go on to this tangent that Casita is Pedro and the candle is Pedro, like, does that mean Pedro dies again? That's pretty sad.
A little bit.
But I mean, the I guess Pedro dying again, but like Mirabel still has the magic. She still has that gift inside of her. So at the end scene, when she puts the doorknob back into the door and the whole house comes back to life, that was Mirabel. She's bringing the magic.
She's the miracle she was waiting for. She is the miracle.
Yep.
Like everything, like the more we talk about these theories and like how everything is connected, like I think we just discover like new things. But yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about the ending right.
Yeah, let's go into what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, so the first time I saw it, I don't think the ending was very like cut and dry for me. And even to this day, I don't think it's very like
it's pretty ambiguous as to like what.
So I think it just kind of depends on what you believe like in the movie. Like I think after hearing the theory about like, Mirabel like, taking the candle like magic and stuff and putting it on her, and like she is like the miracle or whatever, like I think her like rebuilding the house and like her walking down with Antonio like she does with him like in his gift ceremony, I think it's kind of like him walking her down like to her like new like gift ceremony. And I think like
I never put that together. Like this is her gift ceremony.
This is her gift ceremony. Like, and she's
I never thought of that.
Yes, and like everyone is just kind of realizing, Bruno even says it, like, you're the real gift kid. Let us in. Like, this is her door. Like, she's the one that like everyone was waiting for. Like, she like is the gift, the miracle and everything. And like she puts that handle in, like it has an M for Madrigal, for Mirabel, for miracle, and like that's her door.
Oh,
and,
that
like,
makes I like that so much.
And
like not also to mention, like at these gift ceremonies, the whole town is there. The whole town is here. They're in the background watching everything because they just helped finish build this house. So like the whole town is there. And like you said, Antonio is walking her up to that. Like, that makes so much sense.
It's gonna make me cry. Like every time I watch that scene, it's just it just makes me want to cry because it's just, and I never like until now I never really like in the beginning when she's like, I'm waiting on a miracle, like she's waiting for herself, like
she's waiting to realize that that's what it is. And like not only that, like she's waiting to have Abuela realize that she is the miracle. She's waiting for the family to realize, like, again, you're more than just your gifts. Like you are the gift that makes our gifts work and makes our gifts happen.
You are the magic. Oh my gosh, I love it. Like, there's just so much. Like that whole ending sequence is just, it really just unpacks a lot because, you know, I know we talked, or you kind of mentioned it earlier about Mirabel like kind of forgiving Abuela and maybe kind of seeing things from her side. You get that whole beautiful sequence with Dos Orguitas and like I love that song. And I know we saw kind of like a theory about that song being more about Mirabel and Abuela, which I never really like thought about.
Yeah, because
in context with them.
Because yeah, when it comes out in the movie, like, or when it plays in the movie, it's definitely meant to almost seem sort of like a love song between Abuela and Pedro, you know, or Alma and Pedro when they're younger, and like kind of like his love letter to her,
Yeah.
which it plays off both ways. Like it's an amazing song, but then like Lynn had to come in and make it like so many like a bigger, deeper meaning. And you know, hearing that theory that this was more of like an Abuela and Mirabel needing to come together, you know, that it was almost like duh, like that makes total sense.
Yeah, like, and I never thought about it that way, like that dynamic of like them trying to like, yeah, kind of come together and like maybe see things like from each other's point of view almost. So I find that interesting. Yeah, because it just, you know,
Yeah,
never
and
really
it
occurred to me.
all falls down to like, you know, we've talked about it a lot in this episode where it's just a lot of like familial trauma and like a lot
Yeah.
of issues, and I guess a lot of the toxic and negativity that can come from big families or these tight family bonds. But you know, the Mirabel says like, you know, no matter how bad we're broken, we can still fix it
Yeah.
together. And Abuela at the end of the movie, you know, to her credit, does say like, you know, we are broken. Like
Yeah.
I broke this family.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can still make things work as long as we work together and as long as we come together and realize, I guess in her point, like she did create a lot of this negativity or toxic, you know, kind of environment that the whole family was having to deal with.
Yeah.
But like, I apologize. I'm sorry. Let's take the next step forward to make things better here.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe in real life that's probably too high of like expectations. But for like the context,
it doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, and like the purpose of this movie, like I think that's exactly what everybody needed. And yeah, and just like, and it just goes to show like a healthy way to kind of like respond to that. And you know, and I'm glad that Abuela was able to kind of see her own faults and everything, and you know, try to make it better.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna wrap things up with this episode.
Yeah.
With a question.
And I think it's a very appropriate question here, based on the fact that Mirabel now has his brand new house that they just built.
Yeah. All thanks to her. Does she have to go back to the nursery? Like,
I don't think so. And this last time we were watching it, you know, they go into the house and Casita's like, come on, everyone in. And they start this, you know, this big celebration. There's a shot of from the top level going down to them all at, you know, in that center where you can see all the doors and they're all glowing and they're golden and it's got that star, you know, that glowing dust on it or whatever. There's no names on the doors anymore. So I don't think that anybody has a room anymore. I don't, maybe like they don't, none of them have like their, I mean, they all have their own specific room. They're not all like just changing rooms whenever they want. But like, I don't think that they have like that big open room for their specific gifts now. They probably just have a room that they all can be like individually who they need to be or they want to be. Not who Abuela thinks they need to be or what their gift holds them to be. And so that's why, like, when I saw that, I'm like, none of the doors have pictures on them, or none of the doors have their names on them, or none of the doors have any carvings on them. So I'm just kind of like, well, maybe none of them have like per se like their own like specific Isabella has flowers for miles type of room, but they have a room for themselves.
Like, so do you think it's like a normal looking room? Like it's not like a
I mean, I don't think that like, Isabella's gonna walk into a room with just like a queen size bed and like a nightstand and a lamp. Like I'm sure there's gonna be
Yeah.
like some sort of like special room to it, but like I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, well, one, I don't think Mirabelle has to go back to the nursery. I think she
I'll agree with that.
has,
Yeah, she doesn't.
yeah, like I think she's gonna have like her own space.
Encanto 2.
Yeah, in the house. But yeah, because I know there's an interesting theory um about the pictures on the doors, like that the doors show like adult versions of everyone except for Antonio, um because of like the expectations or whatever that is placed upon them from Abuela. But Antonio doesn't get the adult version of him because like Mirabelle walked down like the ceremony with him. Like she's kind of like I don't like she hasn't like taken over, but like she's more in a position to like I guess like take over like Abuela's like position
Duties.
yeah, in the house. So he gets to be more of like a kid and stuff. And I don't know if I really like agree with that. Like I think like I'm more on like, they kind of like just grow up with the person. So he's a kid right now, so he just gets like a kid on his
I
door.
like that idea that the
Um
doors in the room should grow up with the person,
yeah.
because like especially when like Luisa or Isabella, when they had their room ceremonies, they would have had it, presumably they would have had like the older versions of themselves on the door,
Hmm.
which I don't like, because then you're kind of saying like this is the person that you're going to grow up to be with this
Yeah.
gift, instead of take this gift and grow into the person that you're meant to
Yeah.
be.
But then I kind of like, because then it kind of falls into like Abuela's expectations and what they need to use the gift for. So I can
Right.
kind of see that. But yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
I don't know. At the end of the day, Abuela ain't running this in this ship anymore. This is Mirabelle. She's got the keys. She's the one that's opening up the door.
Yeah.
She has the magic. I think I honestly think that they do have the room to create a second movie with this shift in dynamic of Abuela's expectations and how this family should be run, to now Mirabelle has now opened everybody's eyes.
Yep.
She almost has her own kind of vision now, that
With
everyone
her
can,
green
with her green
glasses.
glasses, that she can kind of open up everybody's eyes to take your gift and do what you can do best with it, that
Yep.
makes you happy, not what, we think you should do to make, the whole Encanto or the whole town happy.
Yeah. Well, and I think like at the end too, like when the town is like coming to help, they're like, we don't have gifts, but we're willing to help,
Mhm.
so I think that's um
And Abuela was cool with that, but when Mirabelle comes, he's like, "I don't have any gifts, but I'm just here to help. I made you these really cool
mhm.
candle holders," and she's like, "Yeah, maybe you should let this to somebody else." Like,
Right.
I just Abuela really makes me mad.
She
Like, I
does.
just
Yeah.
don't like her. I don't think that anybody would assume that an Abuela in real life would make this turn, where they'd be like, "Oh yeah, she's admitting she's wrong and she's gonna change for the good." Like, I don't think that's gonna happen in real
Yeah,
life.
I don't think so either.
But it's beside the point now.
Yeah.
I just the more I watch it, and every time I watch it, I'm just kind of like, man, Abuela needs to like kick rocks.
She does. Like she's just so like she's very much that toxic person in the family, and but she's also the head of the family, so that makes it
Yeah,
very very hard.
but they've definitely addressed that, and
Yeah.
going forward into this fictional family and in the Encanto, they will
Yeah.
hopefully remedy that for the future of them. But
Yeah. Yeah, but overall, like I think just like the messaging of this film, like I think you just kind of have to like, look inside yourself, like, and just you may not think that you're special or you have any like, great abilities, but I think everyone has something special or something that they're good at or something that they can put out into the world to make it a better place.
yes, you can always contribute something. You
Yeah.
don't need special powers like growing whatever you want, like Isabella, or, you know, being super strong like Luisa, or seeing the future like Bruno. Like
Yeah.
you have power to to make the world a better place, even if you don't have those superpowers or
Yeah.
that gift, or, you know, whatever your, you know, special ability is.
Yeah, and I think, like, just, like, the family dynamics, like, I think, you know, even if there is, like, toxic people in your life, you know, like Abuela, like, there's always, I think, good people in there, like, you know, like Mirabelle's parents, like, they're amazing, and, I think the connection that, Mirabelle and Bruno kinda gain, you know, with being, like, distant and not knowing each other, but I think they really connect, like, being, like, the outsiders of the family, and,
Yeah, the family weirdos always get a bad
yeah,
rap.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and they, like, make that connection and help the family in the end,
Hmm.
so, yeah, there's just so much, like, good and love and, like, positive, like, messaging, like, throughout this whole film, and, I just think, like, the thing I really take away from it is just, like, Mirabelle, like, realizing, like, she was the miracle, like, she still had a gift, like, even if she wasn't, like, physically, like, given one, and I think that's what we can kind of all see in, like, all of us, like, you know,
Hmm.
we're still just as special as everybody else here,
And
so
subliminally, we all should have known this, because Mirabelle and Miracle are only one letter
I
off.
know.
It's right there. It's out there in the
Yeah.
open for us. But um, I think this was a really fun deep
Oh,
dive into Encanto.
yes.
It's one of our favorite movies. We were kind of talking about, like, you know, is this like a top 5 movie for us? And I think for me, it probably is. It easily
It's
top 10 Disney movie.
yeah. Yeah, I haven't really done, like, a full-on ranking, but, this one would definitely probably be in, like, my top 10.
Hmm.
I think just that connection, like, the music is just amazing, yeah, it just gets me every time, and I think every time we watch it, like, we're always just talking about it, like, we're always just like, "Oh, yeah, I saw
Hmm.
this theory," or, like, "I just realized this," or "Saw something new,"
So like this format of like
yeah.
digging a little deeper into it, like it really works for us, because we're always talking about this movie. We
Yeah.
always um we mentioned earlier that we just watched it a couple weeks ago, which was a really cool experience. We live in Green Bay, and they do like this outdoor movie kind of out by the Lambeau Field
Yeah, at the Titletown
at the
district
Titletown district. So
district
we
out
were
there.
up on the hill kind of watching, and it was really, really cool to see like everybody really enjoying this. And just everyone has their own like thoughts and opinions on it. And, you know,
Yeah.
just it means so much, and means, you know, so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that quintessential like Disney movie. Like
Mhm.
it tugs on everyone's heartstrings. It always has, it's a message for everyone. There were so many different walks of life there, and it was just so cool to like be there and see that, and just realize like, you know,
Yeah.
this movie means so much to so many people. And I go back to, I'm really glad that we were one of like, I feel like one of the first like original fans of it,
Yeah.
because you know, we were the ones to see it in the theaters first.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind too is I think, like, kids who they identify with or who they like most in this movie, you know, I think a lot of um kids would like be like, "Oh yeah, I really like Isabella because she's really pretty and beautiful and she's kind of like the princess of the movie." But so many of them like Luisa because she's strong and
Hmm.
powerful, and
Yep.
I love that so much. I know our friend Katrina and like her little girls, like they love Luisa
Hmm.
so much, and I think that's
Or
amazing.
even seeing kids like identify more with like Antonio because of his gifts with the animals, and like just
Mhm.
really being in tune with like wanting to learn more about animals, or Mirabelle just kind of being like that quirky type
Yeah,
of character that,
different.
you know, is a little bit different, but you know, still is very powerful in her own ranking. So like, yeah, like I kind of said earlier, like Isabella, it seems like, you know, she would be like that Disney princess that
Yeah.
all the girls want to be, but like, yeah, like a lot of people, or a lot of children, like I see, kind of gravitate towards
Yeah.
Louisa, because you know, she can be vulnerable, she can be strong, she can
Mhm.
be funny, she can be, you know, just very confident, and it's everything that, like, you know, kids need to be.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing about Isabella, like, and her change where she, you know, she's like, "I've been stuck being perfect my entire life," and it's like she wants to be able to, like, go out there and like be a little different, and you get to see that at the end, like with her like clothes being all mismatched, and she's making cactuses that are pointy and not perfect, and that's just the messaging, and like I feel like we could just go on and on about this movie. Like I'm trying to wrap it up here, and we just keep talking.
And that's exactly what these episodes are made for.
Yeah.
That's exactly what these not extra magic minutes. That's a different type of episode.
These dig a little
deeper episodes are meant to be, so you can just kind of talk about something that we really, really love, and just go on tangents and go on and just talk about it. And it's I love it. I think that this series is going to do really, really well for us. I already know the next movie I want to try doing, or a couple movies I want to try doing next. And if there's any movies that anybody listening would like us to maybe dig a little deeper into, we would definitely love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have any like theories, thoughts, Easter eggs, things that you found in Encanto, like we would love to hear them. Like I'm always like down for hearing new things about this movie. I think there's so much to unpack and see, and so please leave us a message or a comment. And
we always appreciate you guys for listening, and for all the support that we get on here, especially on our YouTube and our Instagram page. Like we get a lot of interaction and engagement on there, so we really appreciate all that.
We do.
And we're just super excited to talk to you guys next week. I think we have another fun episode for you guys planned next week. We're going to kind of be taking you behind the scenes and showing you all of our collection, all of our Funkos, all of our lounge flies. So that'll be a really fun episode to show off. So that would be another one to follow on YouTube on. We'll obviously make that announcement here, but we're going to show you guys lots of pictures, lots of video. And we're very excited for that. Yes,
Tyler did amazing editing that episode.
Thank you.
So if you guys could take the time to go watch it over on YouTube, he did an incredible job piecing that all together. So it took a lot of time, so we would appreciate if you could go take a look over there.
Again, appreciate you guys. And for this episode of the Team Unicorn Podcast, I am Tyler.
I'm Sammy.
And it's been magical.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Team Unicorn Podcast. You can find us on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, like, and review wherever you are listening, and follow us on Instagram to keep up with all things Team Unicorn. And remember, stay magical.